Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. And I know that it's been a few weeks, but I finally got around to seeing The Black Phone in theaters today. I can't even remember. I can't remember when it first came out, but I originally thought that since I was going up to Pennsylvania soon, with everything else going on, I figured that I'd just wait for a while, and I probably had time to see it, but whatever. I saw it today. So, I'll be honest, this was actually towards the bottom of my list of films that I was originally planning on seeing, but then I kind of watched Moon Knight, and I really liked Ethan Hawke as the villain, even though he was kind of, even though the villain itself was kind of one note, at least in my opinion. And then I just recently watched The Northman, which for the small amount of time that Ethan Hawke was in it, I really liked his performance. So I decided, you know what, the first chance I get, I'm gonna see The Black Phone, and well, today was the day. It's kind of funny because it seems like very recently Ethan Hawke has been in anything. Ethan Hawke has been in everything. Like, he was the villain in Moon Knight. He had a small but important role in The Northman, and now he was the main villain in The Black Phone as the Grabber, and like as the Grabber, he kind of ended up stealing the show, in my opinion, just because of how good his performance was. And like, that's not a knock on the kids or anything, because the child actors were great. Usually I don't really care about child actors, even when like they're the main cast. Even in like Stephen King's It, I kind of found at least half of those characters annoying, and the other half just I didn't really care for the other half. And that's also probably the reason why I still haven't seen Stranger Things, even though I keep getting recommended to see it. But all the actors do great. Ethan Hawke plays a really, like, chilling villain. Like, the way he portrays, like, the Grabber, is that most of the time, like, he comes off as, like, unsettling, but the way the lines he's given, kind of, like, gives off the attitude that, like, he wants to sound harmless, but the tone he puts it in still, like, conveys, like, the threat that he is to, like, to the main character, Finney. And in some ways it kind of makes me think of, like, Homelander from The Boys, where that guy can, like, seem charming in one moment, and then, like, completely balls to the wall, just evil and insane in the next. Like I said earlier, the child actors were great. Finney is, like, the guy that we mostly followed the story with, where he's the latest person that gets kidnapped by the Grabber. But then the story also deviates a lot to focus on his sister, Gwen, who very early on in the film is established to have, like, these dreams of the previous victims of the Grabber. And I like to think that her dreams were, like, visions that the dead kids were giving her, which I think would work better if, it would work better to the film if she didn't get those visions until after Finney gets abducted. But like, the movie more or less opens with her just receiving the dreams while Finney is basically, like, still with her and their alcoholic father. Which, speaking of, Jeremy Davies does uh, gives off a really great performance as an alcoholic and abusive father in this movie. I haven't really seen him in a lot of entertainment media lately. I do remember he was in Constantine, where he played a former colleague of John's, and he also reprised the role in the animated Justice League Dark, and he was also Doctor Destiny in the Elseworlds crossover from the Arrowverse. But other than that, I haven't really seen him in a lot of movies or TV shows, particularly like a horror movie, which now that I think of it is a little bit weird. Uh, and then the only other really standout actor was I think his name is Jason, either Jason or James, but the last name is Ransone. And I immediately recognized him as being the adult Eddie Kasprek in It Chapter 2. And I'm pretty... Yeah, I did read this from somewhere where he was also in like both of the Sinister films, which were previously done by Scott Derrickson before he went on to direct Doctor Strange. So, I, it was kind of funny because basically this movie was kind of like a reunion for both Ethan Hawke and Ransone in the movie. Aside from the acting, the film does a really good job in like being like creepy and disturbing, but not like straight up terrifying. Although, I guess if you're a parent who like has lived in an area where children are getting kidnapped, like you would find the story to be like pretty horrifying on a personal level. Which I guess was a bad way for me to put that, because like I've actually lived in the area. I actually live in an area where there have been kidnappings in like nearby towns. But aside from that, the music was pretty good. The movie takes place in the late 70s, and I think they did a good job with keeping the soundtrack in line with like the licensed music, but I'm not too sure about that. And like just the score was pretty good, especially at the end with the final fight between Finney and the Grabber. There's really only one thing that I didn't really like about the movie, and that was how stupid and incompetent both the police and the children were. And what I mean by that is, so there's a segment where Ransone's character, who is the Grabber's brother, he outright shows the cops this map that he has of all of the Grabber's recent victims, and he determines that since A, they were all from like the town school, and B, they were all picked up after school, like in nearby locations, then process of elimination, he lives somewhere in that specific neighborhood, and he even finds out that not only is the Grabber his brother, he also finds the basement that he kept the victims in. But all that comes off as to the cops is just rambling, which, to be fair, in like just seconds ago in the same scene, the cops noticed that like he was sniffing cocaine, which sort of makes sense, but they also kind of should have looked into that. And like as for the kids, in my opinion, being stupid is that they also knew that like the Grabber had already taken like a bunch of kids, and even if the cops didn't notice this, then the kids surely should have noticed it, that all the children that the Grabber kidnapped were from their school, and they were picked up and they were last seen like walking home from school. So at the very least, like the cops probably should have set up a curfew, and the school also probably should have encouraged like having a buddy system every time they walk home from school. Like, I don't know. I know the film takes place in 1978, but I specifically remember this one time in middle school where my school did like a PSA about kidnappings, and they even showed this like short film where this one girl got kidnapped, and they basically told us like the same thing that I just mentioned, that like always have a friend or two to walk home to school with you. If you can, like have your parents pick you up, and like get home at an early time to minimize getting kidnapped, right? And the movie does like none of that. Like the whole way that Finney gets kidnapped in the first place is that Gwen and Finney are walking home from school when Gwen tells him that like, oh, I'm gonna go stay at a friend's. She goes off in one direction, and Finney just starts heading home by himself, and that's how he gets kidnapped in the first place. So that whole bit about how it was already established that the grabber had taken multiple kids, and we even saw two different scenes of the grabber kidnapping two classmates that were close to Finney, that they never bothered to walk to their homes with a friend or like even an adult, and they also never bothered to like have carpools or anything. But I don't know, maybe they just did something differently in the 70s. But those are really all of my thoughts on the film. I know that it's been a bit late, but like I've been bogged down by a lot of things for the last few weeks, and the whole vacation that I took last week that I shared posts on my community page thing. That was just really the tip of the iceberg. But other than that, I'm back, and and at the end of the day, like it was a really good film, despite the one tiny flaw that I had with it. And really, just this just makes me want to see more of Scott Derrickson's movies, not just Doctor Strange. So I'm probably gonna see Sinister at some point. But those were just my thoughts on the Black Phone. I'd love to hear anybody else's. Like and subscribe if I want to, and peace out.